But it's one of those issues where you go, I would like to believe. Again, you look at FaZe as like the big bad villain in this scenario. They've picked off all the stars. They've used their money to bring this team together. They're like that corporation in any video game where you're like, I've got to take them down. And Renegades are the ones to do it. They're like the David versus Goliath sort of thing on this map. The issue is, a lot of the time, in real life, the bad guys win.
Yeah, but do you know what remind me of? The Man City of CS.
Yeah, that's true. I like some of the Man City players, but I don't necessarily like Man City. Although, they do have nice clothes. That's more aimed at FaZe than Man City.
And they have some nice aim as well, Tom, because they've got the first 2 kills in this round. Ins, Hats, and Dexter. All that remains of Renegades. Still, plenty of potential to maybe swing this back around, and there's the man in question. Dexter through middle, gets the kill on underpass, now going to go face off against Olofmeister at the top of middle. And I like that he's going for this play. When your player's behind in this kind of a scenario, you have to roll the dice. You have to try and take the fight to FaZe. Get some early information for the rest of your team. But he's been found. He's been tagged up. Still retaining his life and keeping close on middle. This is wasting a lot of time for FaZe, but neither of the Renegades remainers are actually moving. They're actually staying in position. So it feels like Dexter's life was basically forfeit, and there's not really any reward for it either.
Yeah, he's the lone wolf. He can now be the overwatching game leader, just watching what they're doing and maybe try to direct a little bit. But I feel like in pistol rounds, there's very little you can do as a tactician when you're in a 2 versus 4. Even in this scenario, I would quite like to see the remaining CTs gather up, play this together, at least give yourselves a chance of backing the right site. Instead, they're still split. Ins has finally found out that piece of information they desire. That's a nice shot. At least drops cold 0. They're going to get the bomb down in default, which is definitely not the best plant position in the world. It means the player on ramp is actually fairly null and void, and Nico's now gone down to a nade. They've turned this into a position that's possible from one which I never believed.
Potentially from zeros to heroes, Renegades. They are going to have Olof coming through on the Palace side because Brocky is effectively stuck on the side. Are they expecting a double stack? They know that one of these players was planting on default. I don't think they realize there were 2 players here. Now they're going to find out as Brocky just spins across for the second headshot, tagging up Ins and softening from Olofmeister to finish. And FaZe Clan going to get another pistol round going their way.
Yeah, they're 3 for 3. It's been something that they've pretty much mastered in this series so far, and even some of the positions that we've seen them in, they've won a 2v3, I think it was, in the first pistol. They've now won themselves what was a 4v2 after it got a little bit dicey. They didn't let it get out of control. The rotation from Olof again, like, it's something you mentioned, as maybe the aim's not always there for him. His decision-making is nigh on perfect. I said it at the time, that ramp spot is kind of pointless, so he ramps around into Palace.
Yep.
Perfect position, and there wasn't much that remaining Renegades could do. They have invested, of course. Sicko going to be saving some extra cash for the AWP, and interestingly, Malta has saved some money as well, whether that's for a secondary AWP, which is very viable on this map, or if he's just going to be keeping that extra utility. I don't personally mind either. But we'll see how much damage they can do in this round. They've gone for actually a double stack in towards the ladder room, which is definitely an interesting play for the pistol round, but it might be a little bit of a surprise for FaZe if they do opt to go towards short.
Exactly. It's almost the perfect counter for a wraparound onto B. So they may be anticipating this and trying to read what could be coming up. So far, not going to be the case. Grenade damage in. I thought it actually would hit Nico a little bit more than that. Looked like it landed underneath his feet. But it's Sicko that's going to come out second best in that encounter. This does allow FaZe now to just go fully out onto A. Last player alive is going to be Ins, who's been spotted. Last seen heading into Palace. And Hats rummaging through the window. So in terms of this round, it's looking pretty much over. Pretty much done, especially as Hats has met his demise to the hands of Rocky. Ins with a pretty solid shot onto Olof. Going to be able to take a gun, but it's only the Mac 10, so it's not really worthwhile, especially as the rounds progress. So FaZe with a 2-0. And it looks like business as usual here, Tom.
Yeah, there's a possibility that maybe Ins can get this kill onto Brocky. He does have a Galil. It's not the ideal weapon of choice. I'd put it like, when people have kids, you obviously love your kids. But then they grow up to like Fortnite and you're like, oh, it's like, I love you, but at the same time, if I had a choice, maybe there'd be someone else.
Is that you're feeling like a little?
Yes.
It's pretty accurate, actually.
Pretty accurate, and it also how I feel about Fortnite as well. If anybody would like to hire me for Fortnite gigs and they have a hell of a lot of money, you know, I am fickle.
It was at that moment Tom knew he was never going to work Fortnite. And he was okay with that.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. As long as I get more Counter-Strike gigs.
And everyone's dead.
Oh, dear Lord. Well, I like the idea. Renegade's going for something a little bit different. There's no harm in that. We sort of laugh at how easy that was for FaZe to clean things up, but in all honesty, when you have nothing, you might as well go for something a little bit ludicrous. It's like that pyramid stack that people do on Train. Like, occasionally it works out for you, but most of the time it ends like that.
Or the Astralis stack on Inferno in the pool side. Yeah, I like that. I'd prefer to see something wacky like that backfires than play default with USPs. Like, please. What are you going to do with USPs in the default?
Oh, this is the buy we were looking at. Mentioned the potential of a double orb setup straight in, and Malta's going to be buying one up. I'm sort of surprised at how quick Sicko was to actually tag down Nico. So a good start to the round, but no kills met. And they're doing the same again. They've got this Mac 10. It's going to be a little bit sneaky coming up from Rain. Looking to try and get in the face of Sicko, which he could easily be overwhelmed by the Mac 10, especially considering that he doesn't have any head armor. But at the same time, for now, the T's are just slowly taking map control. They've gained the ladder room. They've also gained the connector. Even still holding on to some of the upper apps positions, which are being fought for. And now leaving Sicko completely blind. They're even going to take the edge of jungle.
It's like we were saying in the pre-game discussion about Sicko's AWP impact. He's been smoked, Molotov, flashed out of position. He can't really do anything for the time being. And now it just falls down to FaZe. Now, they do have that early warning system perched in the apps, which is going to be Hats. But meanwhile, Sicko has been dealt with. Hat's going to be pushing through the smoke itself, though. He's just on the periphery. They can't see each other, but that smoke is going to fade eventually. And there's a Molotov tossed in. Hats with one, looking to try and spray down and gets two. That is a huge amount of damage that's been inflicted. It's still going to favor FaZe, but they're not sure as to whether there's a second player on B.
Finally going to kill off Rain. He had a Deagle and a Mac 10, and he's cleared out 3 players from this A site. Malta, he's got no real choice but to at least try and save. Like, they've got the B site so much under their control, and he has an AWP, so I don't think there's much of a chance of him going for this, even though, looking from our perspective, he does have an opportunity.
Again, depends on the priorities. You want to save the AWP, or does he get given the go-ahead? Does he get unleashed by Dexter? And because he's taken this amount of time, it's going to be the save, more than likely. Does have a kit and a flash, but that AWP could be so important. My concern, though, to go back to the point that we were half raising there, is Sicko got mollied out, smoked out in jungle, and then just fragged by, I think it was Rain. He had 0 impact in that round. I don't think he's got a single kill. I actually think his ADR must be incredibly low, like sub 10.
He legged Nico in this round, so that might put it up at least a little bit. Like, he did quick flick into mid, but a little bit unfortunate not to get the kill. I'm more impressed with how much Rain was managed to do with so little. Like, his deke has been on point. It's something we've mentioned so far. Like, he domed Dexter on the site, and I think near the end of the round, he did the same to someone who was trying to rotate. He also one-tapped with a Mac 10 onto Sicko. So we mentioned the head armor. He got owned, and that was what we were talking about in the previous map that we watched, where we were talking about Brocky. Like, okay, It's a good investment just because he's up against people without head armor. This time it pays off, and Rain is already looking on point in a map where we basically said they have so many stars.
I feel like Rain normally shines on the CT side of Mirage, and even the T side, so there's a lot of things that are starting to become a bit of an issue. Speaking of the man, sprays up through the smoke, finds Dexter, not able to spin around, and maybe Rain was thinking twice about opening up as his teammate was blocking the shots, which was Nico. He's the only casualty thus far. In's not for the first time perched in Palace, but it's Malta with the saved AWP that is doing work. Not a kill onto Brocky, but tags him down, blows his elbow clean off. Down to 23, but now it's Malta that is alive in a 1 versus 3, and he may think about just pulling the plug. Maybe see if he can get a kill on the cross. They do have max round loss bonus round the corner, so they'll be able to afford regardless of what happens here, but it's such a larger amount of invested cash that he doesn't want to burn. They're doing well to save this, and he is going to peace out of there. But I'm getting, again, senses of deja vu, Tom. This is almost identical to how Inferno started.
Yeah, and more worryingly, it's different players stepping up again for FaZe. Nice flick from Malta. Definitely got the talent, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like he's been in the right position for the majority of these rounds, and eventually he is going to get taken down. Worth it, of course, for FaZe. They have a massive bank at this stage of the game, 5 rounds in, and the majority of players able to buy for a minimum of a couple of rounds. You look at the other side, the finances are there once again, straight in with the double AWP setup. Of course, the big worry is, as you said, how well Rain again is playing. That's another 3K back-to-back, so he's up to double digits already, 2 kills per round, which can't really ask for much more. I think you're a bit greedy if you do. But let's see now if Renegades can finally step up to the plate. They're going to get aggressive in towards the ramp. Cold is waiting, Inz is gone, he almost escapes. But Dexter will get the trade, at least something for the CT side, but considering they don't really have any weaknesses in this round in terms of their purchase, that wasn't quite enough. Luckily, Malta's still going strong with that AWP, and he's almost led a distraction, if anybody was to go to that B site, by hitting the shot with the orb, because now there's going to be a player lurking just behind the wall. The T's, however, they're static. They've gained some decent map control. They're going to wait to see if the CT side will peek into their crosshair.
It is looking like the best chance that Renegades have had to open up their account on Mirage so far. Player advantage, but also the positions. Dexter has a lot of intel being in T-spawn. He knows the wraparound is not possible. And with them having control over apps and B, and a Molotov down on short, it stands to reason this is going to be an A hit. So they are moving Malta, that third player who was occupying B, over slowly onto the CT boxes. There's some good grenades being tossed in. Nico's going to lead the charge. He's been tagged, but still Frank Sicko through the boxes. And suddenly the advantage goes in favor of FaZe, only for a couple of moments. Malta's going to put it back to equality once more. The bomb is being planted in amongst the rockets. Flick down from Brocky. And now it's that lone man remaining. Malta tagged up to 46. They know exactly where he is. And now that allows Brocky to relocate his position. Is he actually going to flank all the way around back towards T-spawn? He decides against it, but he's not required anyway. As Rain continues to apply the pressure, and it's too much for Renegades. They crumble once again.
Yeah, again, we talk about these clutch round situations and how good FaZe have been. Even though there's been a couple that went the other way in the last map, they've had so many players stepping up when needed. And again, I can't talk about the same man for 3 rounds in a row. I'm sorry, Vince, but it's the Rain show. You know, he's got 200 ADR.
I mean, the thing is that it does seem repetitive, but it's also just fact.
Yeah.
The guy is having a stormer of a game, and you can't get around that. Whichever way you look at it, he's averaging 2 kills per round, over 200 ADR, as you said. He is just playing ridiculous. I believe we've had a bit of a technical issue as we have 2 Dexters now. We spoke about the cloning program. It seems like it's come into effect, so that's good to see. Renegades could do with 3 more of him if possible. And Inz has decided to betray his fellow countrymen, and he's hopped across to FaZe.
I'll be honest. Don't blame him at this point. Like it is unfortunate. Like the way that things have gone so far in both maps have been that FaZe just get off to a flying start. They've been great in their pistol rounds, be it from the get-go or be it whether it comes down to a clutch. They've been great at finding opening picks, that's basically what Mirage is. On Inferno, it's a lot tougher normally. You rely heavily on utility to force players out, or maybe aggressive plays from the CT side to net you a couple of early kills. In this scenario, it is coming down to just some of these raw battles, and as mentioned earlier, like you've got all the players that you want stepping up. You've had Nico performing, you've had Cold performing. At the moment, they're the quiet ones. Olof's come out and basically just said, you know what, this is my match today. I'm having a good day, I'm gonna perform. The worry with FaZe was always that, okay, if their stars don't show, or if you have too many players and you only get one of them, if you've had all 5, even if it is like in streaks, like even if you look towards the end of that one, like Brocky, he's now 6-1. Like he's the young and up and comer. He's not meant to be necessarily the one leading the way, but he's up there too. And there's not much in terms of, okay, strategical bases that you can really fault Renegades for. They got aggressive. They found that opening pick. They did well to trade. Then the AWP finds another kill for them. They have a man advantage, and then just snap your fingers, it all falls apart, and you're in an afterplant situation with Malta in a 1v2. Maybe there's some things they could have done differently, but I don't inherently look at the rounds and go, no, that was a bad play, that was wrong. I look at it and go, how have FaZe done that? Like, how have they just ruined them this badly? And that's the unfortunate process. Like, say they go out of this in a stomp. They've had a couple of good maps on Inferno. The two teams they've lost to, Fnatic and FaZe. FaZe, a team rising back up the ranks, and Fnatic, a team who's been good for a while. Like, they've always been, especially in Katowice. Like, if I could pick any place I wouldn't want to face Fnatic, it is in Poland and Katowice, because it just seems to be a great place for them. Even when everything was going wrong, they still had last time with the roster with Golden, they won it out of nowhere. So I feel a bit bad for them, but that's the way these events go. You don't get easy games unless you are the best teams in the world, and even those easy games are not necessarily easy.
Well, it's something Wolfie and I were discussing before in the previous best of 3. This event is so stacked. I mean, there's no hiding. You don't get any freebies. Like, obviously, Tai Lu looking pretty weak, pretty vulnerable. But even they, on their day, can do a massive amount of work. Cloud9, bit of a disappointing performance. Even they have their moments as well. So, I mean, Renegades, I agree. I think even if they do get battered here, they can still hold their heads high. They're still trying to figure out the kinks. They've still got a relatively new roster as a 5-man unit. So don't push the self-destruct button just yet. Like, you know, take the positives away from this. But, I mean, in terms of Mirage so far, the one thing that I'd like to maybe see them switch up a little bit is to try and take the fight to FaZe. Try and take mid control. Try and actually gain that respect back, as we said. They did it on Inferno CT side. They had no problems rushing down Banana, rushing down middle towards the end of it. And then FaZe had to slow down. They had to respect Renegades. They had to use more utility straight off just to make sure they weren't being pushed. That's less utility later on down the line. This will free up players like Sicko. This will allow him to then have more reign around the window, around short, or maybe even some kind of boost down ramp or peak down ramp. So I'm hoping that Renegades do change things up. Otherwise, this 6-0 is quickly going to become 10, 12, something like that by the end of the halftime score.
Yeah, I think he needs to be utilized more. I think even if it means that whatever your initial strategy was that involved him playing around middle, playing around the connector, that's been something that FaZe have dominated. Like, I can't think of a round where they haven't had connector control. Either take mid from them, battle for it, make sure that they can't just have it for free and get into connector and force Europa away from positions, or move him. Like, have it so that, like, Dexter seems to be someone who can play most roles within the side. Have him just as a more passive play around that area, and then set Sicko up somewhere else. Have him, I don't know, peek in towards the apps and try and hold it on his own, then bolster your defense somewhere else. Allow one player to hold on to B, because in reality, the B site hasn't really been tested much yet. It's mostly just been the A site. It's been simplistic stuff for FaZe. They've been able to work the picks, and then they can go, okay, we can now just all swing into that A site at once. Don't allow them that. Have a heavier bolster of defense on that A site. Have Sicko or Malta, whoever, all ping in towards B, and then you can try and just basically go, okay, you can't have A for free anymore. We're going to start taking risks to stop you getting A. So now you have to switch your strategy. And then, as you said, that's where Sicko can have some more openings. That's where Dexter can maybe try some of the plays he did in the pistol, where he was up at the top of mid. Like, it's just not the case at the moment, because FaZe have mid for free, and that makes things very easy for them. Like, although we don't talk about them necessarily having the greatest in-game leader of all time, if you give even decent in-game leaders like all the tools they need in a round, or all the map control, and an opening kill most of the time, it's not really going to struggle.
Yeah, the conversion rate's going to be very high. You can see all of the roller coaster of emotions that our observer is picking up on the floor right now. I'd say that FaZe and Renegades have been through all of these at some point in this Intel Extreme Masters in Katowice so far. A question I wanted to pose to you, this is quite an open-ended question. Obviously, we are filling time as, unfortunately, a PC is having some issues. So that's going to be replaced, and hopefully momentarily we'll be live again. Where do you see this FaZe team? Where's their ceiling for you? Because it is a squad. With Brock, he's not been in there for a huge amount of time. Enough time, though, I think, to get a rough idea of what he's going to bring to the table. I think enough time to come up with some ideas. Is this a team that you could see being challenging for that sort of top 3 spot, or do you think that maybe they're more like top 10?
I think the top 10 is fairly easy for them. I don't think that should be a problem. I think it's going to be when they get towards that top 5 slot and in playoffs, because, say, for example, someone like Na'Vi, you can't just outgun them. In terms of individual prowess, you could say that these two teams are fairly level, and we saw it yesterday that it came down to Na'Vi maybe just having a slightly deeper map pool. And I think that's the real issue, is that when you get to teams even higher than Na'Vi at the moment, like you look at someone like Astralis, where you go, okay, they have like one map that they don't like to play, and then everything else is game. Like, can you beat them on a nuke? That's questionable. Can you beat them on an overpass? Questionable. And that's where the issues come in. Whereas if you have a map like Mirage, if you have a map like this, I think there's definitely like opportunities for them. I think top 5 is a goal that's definitely reachable for FaZe, especially with the firepower they have. To get to that #1 spot, that's going to be down to improving the depth of their map pool and basically trying to get to 6, which is a lot easier said than done.
And again, it comes back to that point we said about momentum. They've had a good start to the year. Can they continue? Renegades, though, I said I'd like to see some middle presence. I was speaking about rifle rounds, but fair enough, and pistol. It'd do well for Dexter to get up close and just try and break away from some of these shackles that have been put on them and imprisoned by FaZe. Using that smoke may get the drop on NiKo, who's hopping up and down. Dexter's got to be tilted to that. Like, he's like, why are you jumping there, mate? Come on, give me that headshot angle. Give me a break.
This is methodical already. Like, these are the sort of anti-eco rounds you really like to watch if you are a FaZe fan. Not only just making sure that any angle is cleared with utility, which is something that the CTs cannot challenge you on, but like duoing up, basically making so that even if Dexter does get that kill, chance of him getting the kill onto Rain as well are very slim. They're spread out across the map now with the advantages, and eventually you will just see FaZe gather up together, head into one of the sites, and they have such an advantage here that chances are they'll be able to keep it fairly clean.
Molotov is going to be putting Hats into a world of pain. He has to come out into the open. He's done a pretty good job, though, of avoiding the incursion. And as I say that, his head's just been splattered. But just delaying the inevitable anyway. Sicko, only the 1 kill to his name, can double up. NiKo's tilted. He slammed the table because there was no cover.
Yeah, a decent time, and they get 2 kills, which is probably more than I would have expected with the way that that round started, but it's at least a little bit of damage onto the T-side economy. Unfortunately, not really going to do too much, and they don't retrieve a weapon. 7-0, we are now going to see that double AWP come back into play. I have to say, thus far, okay, Mortar's managed some impact, but he has saved it like a few rounds now and had it in rounds where other players haven't, so 5 kills is not really anything to write home about. And then you have Sicko, who, as we mentioned, impact-wise has been really, really minimal. We need to see a step up from him. And we are seeing a slight change. As mentioned, I'd like to see someone else trying to battle for mid and give some space to Sicko elsewhere. So he is going to be playing back towards the A site, in towards their spawn. And in the meantime, Dexter has taken over mid control. The issue being, though, as FaZe has switched things up, they're now heading into B.
To release a lot of smoke that Hat's just tossed out, though. It allows him the sanctuary of the bench, and it's going to be Malta and Sicko both chipping in with kills with the AWPs. They pushed in aggressively, did FaZe, but it seems to have been into a trap. And now that trap is being fully sprung. Dexter's M4 silencing Rain, who is in form. He's on fire, but he's been doused out alongside FaZe Clan's hot streak. It comes to an abrupt end, and Renegades get themselves finally into Mirage.
Yeah, a change of play basically for both teams. You saw FaZe finally hit that B site, which is something they haven't had to do so far. And in the meantime, decent utility usage, and the B site players, I guess you could say, finally getting to actually try and defend B. The only issue is, will they now have a response for what FaZe was doing before? Because the chances are FaZe are going to go, well, B didn't work. Back to A? like you just go back to what you were doing before, or at least you'd assume. That's the only thing that I wonder a little bit, is that FaZe, in the last map, which obviously a different story, they kept doing the same things, aggressive plays, and then it didn't work once, and then they went, well, we can't do that anymore. And that was how Renegades actually got back into the game. So if they do sort of take into consideration, okay, we've now failed, what do we do next? Do they go back to that sort of raw, aggressive, middle is ours, we're taking this and we're going to utilize it? Or do they go into a more passive execute style? And I don't know if that will work as well.
Well, we'll find out the answer to those questions, Tom. They called a timeout maybe to discuss exactly what you've just highlighted. Let's see how they opt to go back in. There's the smoke towards window, tossed in straight away. Actually, it's on the short instead. Molotov into connector, and Flash is tossed in. Incendiary back on top boxes. Cold Terror tagged down, but middle control is being established. As you highlighted, it has been their bread and butter, has been their successful strat, so why not just bounce back onto it again? And Renegades don't seem to be able to do a great deal about this. They've already given up window.
Yeah, in this scenario, I don't mind it as much, though, because they have made that altercation, which I mentioned before, where it's no longer just Sicko having to try and defend this alone. They've given him a new position. Dexter, I think, will be a little bit more versatile in this scenario, just going to be playing on the edge, and he actually sprays through it, almost gets rid of Nico. He seems to be a little bit unlucky and lucky at the same time, because he always takes a lot of damage, but at the same time, he seems to survive just that little bit longer. Now they're going to go through, and Dexter sprays. There's so much damage, and Inz is able to at least trade one back, hold on to the Palace spot. But even still, even though there's lots of damage being done to FaZe, they have managed to gain a fair amount of control.
They have indeed moved into position. Their headshot quartets around connector. Everyone we switch to, instantly a goner. Nico still alive. 30 seconds, Inz realizes, okay, I'm gonna just perch myself up on balcony. It's a bit too hot to handle underneath. 25 seconds, FaZe have got to go in. They have to barrel out onto the side. It's not a great flashbang. coldzera was trying to cover that angle on the balcony, and now Inz has shown his hand, but Brocky just spins around with his sidearm and puts it between the eyes of Inz. That's gonna be a bomb plant as well. Brocky knows he's going to get sprayed, hence the jump, and it does actually keep him relatively healthy, just 93 HP.
He just hit Hats, I think, straight through the smoke. He's gone down to 15 HP. What is that from Brocky? He's picked up another as well, and Nico's wrapped around. I enjoy watching Brocky play. Like, from the perspective we saw, I didn't see where he shot, who he shot at, or what he saw. I just saw the damage, which is mental, because I don't even really understand what he did. But even still, FaZe Clan, like, everything at the beginning of the round went wrong. Like, they took damage through a smoke. They then had another dinked player and a kill came in. I think Sicko, he just got wrecked. He just got wrecked even from there. And I don't like to rail on a player, but he's Europa. He needs to be getting at least a kill there. And again, the players of FaZe, they come up when needed, and they win themselves the clutch. The 2v2 looked very easy, considering they were actually in an HP disadvantage. Nico was tagged from the very beginning of the round.
And they didn't start to push the site until about 20 seconds. The bomb was still on ramp. They hadn't fully focused on default or Palace or any of these positions, so it could have gone horribly wrong, but still 8-1. Renegades have been instantly sat down and silenced. Malta and Hats taking identical damage, 70 apiece. Sicko's lost his life, but at least Dexter will return fire. Does seem like a drop in the ocean, though, at the moment. FaZe have come back from much worse situations than this, especially considering the lack of firepower, the lack of utility that Renegades possess. And actually, it's only Hats by his lonesome on B. It could be a quick rotation from Dexter. And it looks like that's going to be called upon momentarily because FaZe seemingly happy to push on the B site again.
It definitely didn't work too well last time, but of course, the weaponry in this scenario is very different. There's no smoke and able to delay, and just a lurking from Brocky in the backlines. It's so perfectly timed. He basically lets his teammates be the distraction and then just threads the needle into the site. Dexter alone. Nice shot, at least onto Olof. Gonna look to try and do some damage, but again, it's the Latvian to trade things back and leave Malta and Inz pretty much out of this one. The only issue is the time, and Malta, that's a nice shot. They can't actually plant the bomb just yet because they know he's going to be close. This almost has to be a win by elimination at this point, but luckily, Cold in his prime position, gonna get one, but he's dropped, and that's the bomb down. It's a ring around the rosy. Malta just has to try and stay alive, but Rain, again, 1 second on the clock, Vince, is gonna win them the round. Unreal.
One. It's going to be spammed in Twitch chat, you know it. One all over the place, and yeah, that separates Renegades in the second round and maybe a resurgence on this half. Brutal outcome. Valiant hold, though. You've got to say, like, it looked as though they had no hope in that round. To even pull it back with P250, CZs, and Deagles by itself is impressive, but FaZe just avoid an embarrassing loss and keep the wins going.
The other thing as well is I don't think he knew that Rain had such low HP. So he was just running, right thing to do, just burn down the time, but just a single bullet and he would have had the round to himself. So it is a good round at the base of it, but unfortunately things have kicked off in a similar fashion, and without winning one of these rounds back, you're not really doing much damage to FaZe. Even that kill come at a massive trade of damage. They know where Inz is, and you can see two players just lurking out the edge of the ramp. Olof yet to actually move anywhere. Nice shot from Sicko. I think that might have even been just straight through the smoke, but even still, it's given that CT side at least the man advantage for now, but straight away, the mid-round call comes in for FaZe. They're going back.
Yeah, judging from his position on CT boxes, must have been through the smoke onto ramp from Sicko, having the impact. Now FaZe going back on the B side, as you highlighted. 2 Molotovs, smoke, few flashbangs at their disposal. And it's going to be Nico lining up the flash to pop over, or actually into Apps first. So actually that is going to be a lot of sound that Hats has heard. That's multiple footsteps. He now knows this is B. He can make the call for the rest of the team to get close. He's trying to hold it down with the AWP, but he's gone, and he's got fragged of Rain. How the hell does he get the second kill? That's ridiculous. I thought Malta had a chance to win the round, but Rain is just unstoppable right now. And Renegades have to tap out. They have to give up the chase. FaZe already on 10.
I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, it must be so infuriating just for someone to be playing that well against you and just not being able to do anything about it. Even in positions where it looks like Rain is out of it, he then comes up with another kill. And like we've highlighted other players like Nico, he's not necessarily having his best game. Cold, he's had a few moments, but it's mainly been Rain going on the hunt to try and shut down some of these weapons. The bank for FaZe isn't insane, but the scoreline is 10 rounds on the T side. They're going to be more than happy with that as a minimum. Like, that's the real worry. That's the minimum they're going to be going for now. They could end up on a 14-1 half, and money, again, for the CT side. Sure, you saved a weapon, but it's not going to be anything too pretty. So you're still stuck in a spot where you go, what do we even do here?
I think Rain needs a pay rise, FaZe. If you're listening right now, he needs a bit of love. At least get him a masseuse out there, give him a back rub, get a chiropractor lined up afterwards.
I thought you were going to say Mercedes, just a bit like the Taz
do that
situation.
as well, yeah. He could be the Taz of FaZe. Why not? And of course, again, say that dies first. Why is that a thing that always happens? I know it's a meme for the caster's curse, but it's unreal how many times it actually does happen.
Oh, you do love to see it. I feel like Jason also thinks he's cursed. So
yeah.
If you're in that mix too, whereas, you know, I'm not cursed. There's nothing I say. Like, for example, in this round, Brocky's going to be absolutely fine.
Okay, we'll put that to the test. FaZe fans are absolutely hating this right now, by the way. The amount of people who believe in jinxes is unreal.
Yeah. I imagine, like, I really want to just go around, like, this is a weird thing to say, but, like, put a load of just black cats everywhere.
Yeah.
And just see how many people just get stuck, just, like, looping themselves around the town and ending up just in the middle of nowhere. But then again, that's their fault for believing in a load of rubbish. But either way, if I have insulted your beliefs, please message me on Twitter @Vince.
That's not even my Twitter handle, so someone just got wrecked for no reason.
@OnFireVince, there you go.
It's like, why am I being wrecked on Twitter? What's CSGO? 30 seconds though, FaZe making a move onto the site, taking every second of their allotted time. And Brocky, is that through the smoker's stairs? I think it may have been, you know. Dexter's just been destroyed, demolished. Ins in the meanwhile, though, does come back with his SG. The bomb's still yet to be planted, still stuck around Shadow. Now the smoke is clearing. Now the flashes are clearing. You thought maybe Malta or Hats had a chance, and Brocky's died. Get wrecked, Tom. Now coldzera and Nico in a 1v2. Ins does tap off the head of coldzera. There was a glimpse of hope, but it's been dashed against the wall. And FaZe 11-1 lead.
You got 2 kills before he died, it's fine.
I believe the words you said was absolutely fine.
That was what I meant by absolutely fine.
Okay.
He's gonna
like
2 for 1.
Keep it vague, then no one can call you up on that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good tradition. That's how I've got through casting in general. Just be as vague as possible.
It is kind of a skill to a degree. Say a lot of things without actually saying anything. Sicko through the smoke with the CZ. There is a slight gap in it, but he's actually got the timing down. I don't think Brocky has any idea. Now, what does Sicko do with this position, though? We saw Dexter go for a similar play early on. No 2 kills going to go his way. It's going to be Nico. It's always him. It's been him this best of 3. Whenever there's been those plays, it's always Nico that goes down. Olofmeister and coldzera are going to be adding to their kill tally. But the round is pretty much over. Feels bad for Dexter.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the best gun to have at range, but even still, I feel like Olof got a little bit lucky there. But yeah, it is showing the depth of FaZe. coldzera 4-9, Nico 9-7, and then you got Rain, Brocky, and Olof just running the show. 19-7, 15-4. Just a phenomenal performance. This is on the T side as well, and well, this has to be the last 2 rounds at the bare minimum and a pistol, I almost have to say, because this is just, well, it's not nice to watch, I guess. It's enjoyable seeing all the frags that FaZe are able to pull out, the impressive kills that they've managed as well, but they have been dominant, and a lot of these rounds haven't even been particularly close the way they've been doing it. The CT side, they're going to set up initially with 3 players around this A site. Still going to be Dexter maneuvering into mid, but again, their challenges have mostly just been a player or 2 going for a peek. They haven't been overly successful. Nico peeking into the window is going to remove Dexter, and again, this domination of the connector and even the window room is just something that FaZe have been able to do throughout this first half.
The thing you're leaning on here, if you're a Renegades fan, is how resilient and tenacious these players are. But the problem is they just haven't given themselves enough room to maneuver out of this incredibly dangerous situation they find themselves in. Molotovs all around Hats. One of them did spread to him. That's a sound cue. I'm not sure they would have heard it from that far away. It's also interesting to see he's one of the few players that still actually picks up the AUG. I feel like most people have abandoned that gun a long time ago. And yet here he is, still rocking it out. And up close, not necessarily where it's at its most prolific. Flashbang in, no one's following up though.
Yeah, the baby Krieg going to be facing off against, well, looking like a CZ. Thankfully, Brocky is going to go down, even things up, and again, we're getting down to the 25-second mark. Look at where the bomb is actually. Olof's in pretty much the worst position to have the bomb. Is he even going to be able to make this? He needs basically a clean run onto the site from here. I don't even think he has time. All they have to do is stay alive. This has been a messy round from FaZe. They've been very, very good so far, but they have lost this purely off the timer.
There are a couple of head-scratching moments there, Tom. Like, first off, it's Brocky that goes into Apps first. He had the AWP. Olof had an SG. Why is the AWP going in there first with a sidearm rather than your primary assault rifle? And that would suggest to me that there was some kind of call or read made that B site was clear. That's the only thing I can think of, is that they were just kind of taking their foot off the gas and assuming they had a free reign there. But then you have 17 seconds left and Olof tries to rotate to the other side.
Also, he does it through spawn, or at least initially. Like, if he goes underpass, he could actually have got to A. Like, it would have been really close, but he could have done. Either way, let's move away from that round. The rest has been very, very good from FaZe, but this time we see some aggression out from Sicko. It takes the 15th round for him to finally go for an aggressive short peek, and he gets the opening kill as well. So maybe some final confidence coming in for Renegades, and they're even looking to face in towards the ramp. Do they know that Cold is here? It's clearly a possibility, but In's half checks it. He gets away with it anyway. A little bit of luck. That could have been that early frag gone within a second. In the meantime, though, Olof's trying to gain some ground over onto the B site. Unfortunately, nobody really giving him anything at this point in time. And the CT side, after getting their opening picks, doing basically what they should, falling back to the sites, taking control of Palace, and making this very difficult for FaZe now. 2-player
advantage. They know with those 2 players, some grenades would have fallen down with them, so that's a lack of utility for FaZe to play with. They're going to throw one of their last flashes out. Rain peaks a bit prematurely, though, so he actually gets hit by that. Now he's going through. 19-7, 140 ADR. He's not going to be finishing the half on 20. I should just stop reading out his stats, shouldn't I? It's getting unreasonable now. I do apologize, FaZe fans.
You're building him up so much and he gets headshot each time.
Just instantly wrecked, of course. Sicko. Nice shot onto Olof, and that is going to be Brocky. 15 seconds with an AWP, 1v5. If he pulls this off, it would be one of the plays of the year, maybe one of the best plays of all time. And it's not going to happen. FaZe Clan, though, will lead 12-3 going through into the second half. Renegades are going to have to pull off quite the miracle. We'll find out if they can after a short break.
They don't understand what we're after. We never heading back until we're older. We couldn't care no more, not any skies, we keep on searching, but we won't ever know what we're after. We're no kids no more. I need to feel alive in this dreadful town. I'm running out of time, and as long as you're mine, I wanna run away. We're never heading back until we're older. We couldn't care no more, not any longer. Under peach yellow skies, we keep on searching, but we will never know what we're after. Oh, I see the signs and I see we're there, and I feel the lies and I feel the sand. Forever hold, no matter if we cast away, a fire in the dark. I know that you won't be where we know again.
FaZe looked a class above Renegades, but at least they did push 2 of their 3 rounds in the dying embers of the first half. They have got to win this pistol, Tom, or they're facing the very real possibility of elimination. And it seems that FaZe would like to close the coffin sooner rather than later. They're going straight up middle. Hats is there laid in wait. Nico, so many targets to pick from. It's a target-rich environment, but he has gone down very poor indeed. Coldzera, now the next point of call, and it's going to go the same way. This is looking great from Renegades.
Yeah, a few picks in a row. They've caught out multiple players with their stack towards middle. And now they're just holding positions, waiting for some sort of reaction. They're going to smoke off the connector. It's looking like this will be a play towards the B site. They have upper apps control, and more importantly, there's no one there. Rain is going to at least be able to hold one on the cross, but the trades back are good, and Renegades have their lifeline.
They have it. They have to hold on with both hands, however. They've been in situations before. They had their moments on Inferno, then just let it slip away. Now, FaZe on the CT side, whereas on the T side, you know, you lose the first round, but you get a bomb plant, you're going to have some assault rifles. Things are going to get spicy. On the CT side, not so much, but they are going to be dipping in and getting some pistol upgrades, some deagles, not fully investing. They've got a huge, vast lead, so you don't want to throw anything away or throw Renegades a bone in this situation. You want to try and stall them as long as possible. Bit of damage inflicted. How did Hats live through that, by the way?
I think he must have been headshotted through the corner of a wall or something. Or the sandbags, but I don't think he got that far. Either that or 2 people hit him exactly the same time, but I think only 1 person peeked, so...
It's just Rain, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit lucky, I guess. Maybe Rain's luck has finally run out as he gets a 4K in this round or something ridiculous. I'm starting to believe now, but they do have a decent stack here. 3 players, maybe the 4th, although... Coldzera slightly facing in the wrong direction. They have all of these smokes, but that's the first one that's finally getting thrown out. In fact, they'll throw 2 at once to try and slow down any sort of push. The Renegades are just barreling into this site, and Nico's going to kick things off with a D. He's quickly traded out. Even still, though, it's looking a little bit sketchy for the Renegades as they do dunk out Rain as well. Brocky going to sneak forward, a nice shot, but he's now desperately low, and Olaf, he had the chance to kill off Sicko. Left onto Cold, missing his shots, and I think eventually, surely he has to go down. In fact, our observer even going to go, okay, that's enough of that.
That's a killer in console moment right there. You missed so many shots. I'm just getting me out of this round right now. I want to play no further part. But as you said, Olof had some chances. coldzera had some chances. This could have easily gone against Renegades. And they've already lost 2 players. Olof may try and set up to take one of these rifles out of the round or get some exit frags here. So the damage may not be done just yet. But at least Renegades can rest pretty easy knowing they've got, at the very least, a 5th round. So it's not going to be as much of a horror story of a full-time score. Here comes the first potential prey. Sicko making moves. Olof hears the footsteps, fires a little bit prematurely. You can see Sicko almost jumped in his chair. Nice flick across onto Sicko. That's going to be a weapon taken. Neither of these T's are anywhere close.
You didn't
he
get
missed it. Olof. My dude, what was that?
How's he done that? I don't even know how that's happened. I think he was trying to pick it up. Did the bomb move it away?
It may have.
But even then, surely it should have pushed it into him.
Just
how did it get behind him? That's magic. That's what that is. But Renegades have been let off a little bit because that would have been a lot of having a spare AK. And we've seen enough heroic plays from him already, especially on the CT side. Either way, full stack on the A site coming out for FaZe. And already a lot of ground being covered by this T side. The bomb's still down in top mid. Of course, this has to be a round where Renegades just take things nice and slow. You lost a few players. You even lost some rifles in the last round. So you want to keep this one nice and clean. Make sure you're at least building into this with no chance of just being instantly reset, which if you look at the amount of money they have right now, is definitely a possibility. If they lose 3 players here, it could be dicey going into what will be not only the first buy round for FaZe, but a bolstered one. They saved extra cash. That's worth noting about the last round is none of the players had armor at all. So to kill 3 players is actually really good. Of course, it's unfortunate losing yourself that rifle, but nonetheless, it looks like they're going to push into the stack again.
A 4-player stack at that. Rain plucks out Malta in mid-air. Brocky tagged up and finished off through the triple box. Hats goes back in for seconds, and now Dexter shows his presence from ramp. Another sketchy situation is cleared somewhat. Dexter spins across. coldzera did dink him with the first bullet. Olof through the fire, through the flames with the Desert Eagle, and Inns, for the 2nd time in the round, is going to put down a FaZe player through the triple box. But even these rounds that Renegades are winning, again, FaZe are making them work for everything they get.
Yeah, both those rounds we could have seen almost slip into the hands of FaZe, so hopefully that will be at least, okay, that's the sigh of relief. Now we get into the buy rounds and straight up we see the double AWP setup. Cold actually purchased it as well, but handed it over to Olof. I don't know if that's something to do with like how he's feeling within the game or maybe a positional thing, because it hasn't been the best map for Cold. Just everybody else has been performing to a decent level. Malta, this is a straight blast through, and coldzera, that's going to tilt him even further if he wasn't already. 4 kills to his name, and he's gone down to just an aggressive push and not having his gun out. Malta has got so far forward. Brocky seems like he's aware, just cerebral play to work it out, and Nico's already traded things back, but maybe a little bit overzealous with his push. And Sicko's actually going to end up with 2.
The young Latvian overzealous with his peak. And now Olof Meister, in bygone times with the AWP, was an absolute powerhouse of a player. Let's see if he can wind back the years. Not really given any chances, and the bomb is now retrieved and moving across, rotating to the B side of the map, going through the murky waters of apps, which are going to be smooth and clear this time around. Olof misses the shot. That should be his life, or maybe not actually. Sicko's going to whiff a fair few bullets. They're both coming out worse for wear, both limping out of this. Smoke, I should say. I thought it was maybe a Molotov he was going to bank off the murder hole. So, I mean, this round is basically done. Renegades are going to perch up a 7th.
Yeah, slowly grinding things back. Again, a messy start to the round, but they seem to be able to stabilize things. Again, it seems like the madness almost works for this Renegade side sometimes, and Sicko has got himself a free AWP, which is always nice. Olof would like to try and keep his, but he's actually being hunted down. Interestingly, it's Sicko doing the hunting. Pistol in hand, they clearly know that the Swede is low on the other side, and maybe Vinowe's going to be perfect. That's exactly what you want if you're on the Renegade side. Sicko with an important triple kill, and also making sure that a buy for FaZe is not really an option in this round.
Yeah, even though he did have the AWP, because the economy for Renegades is more than good enough. I mean, Hats had $9,000 before this round started. It's worth more to take the AWP away from FaZe than it is for you to hold on to your own. So they went for that gamble play. Keeping that economy low, keeping FaZe in rough shape is the order of play. Now, one thing you have to highlight here, there's one player that's not like the others on FaZe, and that's coldzera. He's 4-15. Now, considering, Tom, that he was actually their top fragger in the first map. I think he landed on 26 or 27 kills. He had a lights-out performance on Inferno. This is quite the fall from grace.
When as mentioned as well, this has always been a pretty good map for Cold. Like,
yeah.
Again, like two of the greatest moments in Counter-Strike history from that man are on this map, but yeah, he's not shown up yet, and that's going to be more noticeable on the CT side, because that's a player falling down, especially with him being more aggressive onto short. That's a really big position that they're losing out on. And as I said, like when you're on the T side, that can be covered up by Rain running into the site and getting entry kills. Like it can be covered up by Brocky doing well in the clutch, or even Nico having like issues but still being able to frag along the way. On the CT side, a free kill over to the other side is just not okay. Like it can't happen. So he needs to get out of the rut. Otherwise, who knows? Maybe Renegades could start grinding this back again.
It was the exact same thing that we talked about in the post-game breakdown, that there were no weaknesses, there were no gaps in the CT side for FaZe on Inferno. Here it's not the same case. But speaking of the man, he has pulled off some miraculous plays on B in the past. It is a Desert Eagle to his hand. It's going to be Nico joined alongside with Olof. coldzera is going to pick up his first of the round, and that's going to be a bit of a relief, but Sicko is going to push him out again. 25 seconds to go for Renegades to get on the site and get this planted, which it will be momentarily in the very capable hands of Hats. Now FaZe with a low Rain, 14 HP, and Brocky looking for maybe setting up for exit frags, but they have no nades or kits to get back on the site with. So you've got to give Renegades a huge amount of props here, Tom. They finished the half 12-3. We're almost already thinking about talking about their eulogy. Rain, of course, though, comes out with a deagle.
Just how does I don't even understand. Just peeking wide, it just goes bang, 14 HP, and then just wanders off again. The thing is, like, we can talk about economy management all day long. Like, we can talk about how maybe it's not being built up for Renegades because they are losing so many players each time. But it gets to the point where they're not going to care. They're winning the rounds. They're getting back into it. It doesn't really matter how dicey it gets as long as that number keeps going up and up and up. Sure, the money's not amazing, but you still have Hats who, yeah, he's not necessarily fragging the heaviest, but he's still just making money for the side. He can drop weapons over if they need it. So eventually, FaZe need to win a round. And that's the difference at the moment. It seems silly to say, but they need to start getting onto the board once again. Otherwise, Renegades, they're now down to 4 rounds. Bear in mind, this was 12-1.
That's a very good point. It's been quite the turnaround from Renegades, as we saw on Inferno. Hats effectively the shop, the arms dealer for Renegades, but so far it's been working out for them. Malta, there is a slight gap in the smoke, but he's not able to really make the most from it, as Nico had already backed away. We did highlight Rain as being one of the main players, but he's only picked up 3 kills in this half so far. He finished the first on 19, he's now on 22. And it's going to be something that's a little bit worrying. If he slows down, someone's going to need to pick up the slack. And Malta has been given free reign to move into connector. This is vital pivot positioning from him. They can go through underpass towards A if they so choose. Now, there are 3 players over here from FaZe. The third being Nico is now moving back into window. The timing peak could be so vital, so important on the side of FaZe. He's found one. Molotov in. Gonna HE on his way out. Doesn't really do too much though. And to make matters worse, he's been smoked off and he's been sideswiped by Ins. A site is open for business, but there is Rain on the ramp once again. He is gonna get 2. He's put enough presence down to focus them away from the CT boxes, and this allows Brocky to come out swinging with his AWP. The bomb momentarily will start to get planted, but coldzera has now shown his hand, and there's the peak from Brocky. The win streak comes to an abrupt end, and a lot of that has to go on the shoulders of Rain. He did such a good job of holding ramp.
Yeah, but like the first kill was good, but I don't even know how he really managed to get away with the second one. It was just a quick turnaround, a peek in that nails the second, and more importantly, it gave space for other players to rotate. Because if he goes down on the first, Cold's not ever getting in behind them there from jungle. Like there'd be somebody watching it while the plant goes down, and Brocky, he was able to just peek in and get a couple. He's also having a phenomenal performance. Like, it's almost becoming a race between him and Rain to see who can get at the top of the board. And well, the T's, at least, as mentioned, they're going to use the bank of hats, which really doesn't sound that impressive when you say it out loud, but it's going to buy them everything they need for this round. Okay, sure, maybe a little bit of utility. Okay, Malta, how has he got up there? He almost killed Brocky. That was like dancing on the flames and using it to launch himself up. A bit of a rocket boost. And that's going to give him connector control as the T's do look set up to go into this site. But look at the positions of the CTs. A little bit unorthodox with two players close. Nico there and Rain going to be the first point of contact yet again.
There's the flash, there's the peek. No second kill. He'd already locked in on that first player, Hats, with two. He had a very rough first half, but he is coming alive. coldzera maybe has a chance at a kill on the cross, but they're going to plant on default smoke out connector. They're ticking all the boxes. Olof is resigned to his fate of just watching for the exit frags again. Renegades. They're keeping FaZe honest here. That is brutal for FaZe's economy as well. They're definitely going to have to go back and save this open M4. Looks like there's a few more chapters to be written yet, Tom.
Yeah, and I have to give credit, as you did, to Hats on the entry kills. Because, again, like those positions that were being held by FaZe, okay, sure, Rain up close, that's one that you can expect. But it was more just the fact that Nico was also just tucked in the cubby, like the ninja position, which Hats just walked in, tore his head off, and then carried on going, which... That's Nico. Like, most people can't do that. And yeah, the entry kills over the last few rounds have been really good. You've seen different players step up, considering they only managed 3 rounds. Everybody's now into double digits, excluding coldzera, who's on the winning side at the moment. So yeah, it's interesting. Of course, can't really say anything about Cold in that round because he was the B-side AWPer, so nothing to do with him there, but just statistically. And then now we're going to see another pause, and it's understandable. Like, Renegades now have them on the ropes. Like, since it's been 12-1, there has only been 1 round for the other side, and we're looking at, what, 8 on the side for Renegades. It's basically the polar opposite to what we saw, and it's very easy, I feel, to almost undersell that, because we've been talking about our FaZe, 12-1, like they're dominating, it's been very easy so far. Then when the other team is coming back, you sort of sit there and go, well, you know, there's only a few rounds needed for FaZe to finish this, but Renegades are basically going for anything you can do, we can do better. And at the moment, they're pulling it off.
They really are. You know, you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think FaZe are running into the same issues that Renegades did. They're giving up middle control quite a bit. They're not really playing too aggressively. We've seen Nico go up middle pretty much by himself. So I wonder if we're going to see too many different takes on this CT side. The timeout called, it would seem to me, to be more of a chill period and trying to slow some of this momentum down. They're not really reinventing the wheel, as you'd expect when you only have an M4 and an AWP. They don't really have the finances to allow them to get a full purchase in effect. It'd be too dangerous to do that. Renegades just sitting outside of ramp have themselves Dexter in Palace.
Once again, this gamble is correct, though. They have 3 players and an easy 4th rotator from Brocky. He's going to be playing around the murder hole just in case they come into window. And the issue with this setup is that, well, firstly, they've just managed to find out a huge amount of information, but the T's have to be careful not to get caught off by angles. Rain, though, is going to go down. Again, it's Hats with the opener, Dexter as his second in command, Olov with the only rifle, and this is looking clean. Remember, there were 4 players on this site. We now see just 1.
That is Brocky, who has to turn tail and back out of there. coldzera could do with a bodyguard. He has the AWP and he wants to hold on to that as long as possible. Brocky's a little bit more expendable. He doesn't have Kevlar or anything to really hold on to. It's really just the Deagle. I'm a little bit surprised that they have decided to split up. Inns may very well just get the timing peak as he makes a move towards the B side right now. But Renegades are going to have a 10th round. This is where FaZe, if they weren't already feeling hot under the collar, you better believe they can feel Renegades breathing down their necks now. This next round is so huge. They're going to have a bye. Renegades are back in this match.
Not something I thought I'd be hearing. Like, honestly, not something. But they have seriously impressed, what, over the last 9 rounds? Which, again, seems to be the issue for them. Just a little bit slow to start, but they're good at just coming back into matches. Maybe FaZe taking their foot off the gas a little bit in situations where they shouldn't. The amount of times you see the last couple of rounds after a really good half go the other way is actually fairly common in Counter-Strike. And now you sit there going, okay, what brought FaZe back into Inferno? It was a big individual player. It was a 4K coming out of coldzera. Now, maybe he's not the man that we look to right now, but something needs to change, and I love this from the Renegades. They've been expecting them to maybe change things up a little bit after the pause, so they try and just pressure them straight away. That pressure, however, has not worked. This is looking flawless from the FaZe side. It is Nico to step up to the case as he's got a triple already, and Sicko sat there going, where have my teammates gone? It's only 30 seconds and the round is done.
I love the idea, Tom. I hate the execution. It was 1 by 1. It was a conga line into their demise, and Nico just obliges to push them off their mortal coil. It was kind of rough to watch. I will say as well, though, FaZe landed some beautiful counter flashes on ramp. Absolutely devastated Renegades on the approach. And this is the issue with being at such a huge deficit. Yeah, cool, you won 9 rounds. That's really impressive. But all we have to do is win a couple more, and we've won the game.
Also, look at the CT buy. Do you see any CT weapons there, Vince?
I see a lot of SGs and AKs and a couple of AWPs.
It's not what you want to see. Like, that's always the risk. There's even the joke going around of don't buy the SG because then you give it to the CT and things just end. And, well, now it is just bombardment. The Renegades have gone running into the B site now. Maybe after such a heavy presence over the last few, they decided to switch things up and... well, Olov will oblige with a couple of kills back. coldzera has found another, and we're left in the same situation as last round where we're only, what, 30 seconds in as we were before, and they've already lost 3 players.
At this point as well, Renegades will be looking over their shoulder thinking, well, hold on. This is effectively a B push. We've been stopped. We've been stalled. When's that flank coming? Well, the answer is it's already here. It's barreling down the tracks, and it's coming at you in the form of Nico. Not a player that you want to be facing off against. Instead, though, he's going to play a little bit more passively in case they go for rotation. There is 45 seconds allotted to Renegades if they decide to change their minds, but now the bomb has been dropped. Under control from FaZe, it was only going to end up going one way. And after a valiant comeback from Renegades, it's pretty simple and straightforward. 6 match points, or 6 elimination points if you're on the side of Renegades. It has to be flawless from here on out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the buy-in is going to be anything but that. We spoke about how Hats had been the bank for them a couple of times in this half, and unfortunately, that was due to FaZe doing enough damage to keep the economy low. This is not what you expect when a team wins, what, 9 out of 10 rounds? Is that they then come back with just pistols for what could be, well, it in the tournament. That could be all they have for Katowice. It's been valiant attempts to fight back into the maps where they've had such a deficit. You have to give props to FaZe for how they've started each of these maps. You have to give props to this man too. Again, getting aggressive around the ramp. It's looking like once more it's going to be a split into this site. The bomb actually alone on the ramp, that could be an issue. They have players in the connector, but yeah, you can see Dexter can't really afford to take any risks here, because if he goes down, that's it.
Renegades tournament life on a razor's edge, and Nico is gonna slice and dice with the SG. 2 headshots in quick succession. Rain continues to turn up the pressure, and it's dialed to 11 at this point. It's gonna be all over. The pain train in from Rain, and FaZe Clan will 16-10 to finish this best of 3. Renegades have been eliminated, but they still have my respect, Tom, because a lot of teams would have gave up long before then. They would have fell out. They took FaZe, and they actually ran pretty long with them.